cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our review, our end of the world apocalypse
movie watching.
And this is going to be our review of The Day After Tomorrow.
Right. Not tomorrow.
Not
the
tomorrow,
day after.
but the day after that. So Saturday.
Right.
This movie, I have IMDb up. I want to say 2005.
2004.
2004.
Close.
Okay. Almost movie release dates. I'm coming for you, Bateman.
Right. We saw this movie in the movie theater.
We did. We did.
Because I was like, okay, we live in Arizona, and like
Right.
we were trying to figure out
how we would do in Arizona if this scenario ever
Yeah.
came up, and
Yeah.
I think we'd be pretty okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the median line that Jack Hall, Dennis Quaid's character, draws is essentially like Utah up,
Right. And
all the way
everybody
across the
south
country.
needs
Yeah.
to head for the border, except that there was another one where they had the system and it stopped at the mountains. Phoenix is in a valley.
Right.
So it stopped at the mountains north of us. So I mean, it would be cold here. But
It would be cold here. We've had some times where porta potties have froze. So the cold here. We're going to talk about Arizona's weather apparently with this review. The cold here is much sharper than back east because it's so dry.
Right.
And so it would be very interesting to add all that extra moisture.
And none of us own coats, so we'd all be
we'd all be screwed. This movie. We're going to be honest. We love this movie.
Yeah, we watch it all the time.
We watch it all the time. Whenever it's on, it's always on. We always watch it. The main draw for this movie was Dennis Quaid, right?
Yeah, as far as like the
big name and everything.
Yep.
And we got Jake Gyllenhaal, a young Jake Gyllenhaal. I
Yep.
think he's actually in his early 20s when this comes out.
Probably he always looks younger
Than that. Is. And Emily Rosamond, Rosam has been doing Shameless for the last 8 years. So
okay.
So those are the three really big, well-known now. Everybody else is like character actors and stuff like that. But the big draw at that point in time was Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
And this was this was part of that whole disaster movie, end of the world. Every movie's got to be about climate change and everything like that that's going on. And this was one of the ones that came out. And we're going to be really honest. The CGI was terrible when it came out. It's even worse now. But the idea of what this movie really was a father trying to take care of his son.
Right.
Or at least trying to make up for lost time with this son.
Right. That's one of them. The other one is stop screwing up the
planet. And the other one is obviously the way Roland Emmerich is the one who directed this.
Right.
And his view of the world was listen to the scientist is pretty much what it comes down to.
Right.
And may or may not be actually happening.
Right. Timely,
which, but this, the story makes sense, even though it's a little fantastical with the idea of a new ice age being formed in 10 days.
Right.
But I mean, the science makes sense. They lay out the science of what's happening in the movie, not necessarily what's going on in the world, but what's happening in the movie, and make it understandable. I was going to use a different word, but understandable for the regular audience members.
Yep. Well, and it makes sense. Like there was the one part when the kids are all at the Museum of Natural History, I think, in New York, and they one of the kids comes upon a woolly mammoth and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they were talking about how, it was dug up, or one was dug up or whatever, in the Sahara or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it still had food in its mouth and food in its stomach and
Yeah,
stuff,
it
and
was
it was proof that it had
flash
been
froze or something
flash
like that.
frozen.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of what happens is
Yeah.
in these storms, after the eye goes by, people are being flash frozen, and so that seems believable, right?
It's believable, but also the way they explain the science of it, which is why I love this movie so much, is that it's sciencey enough that you can digest it. That's the word I was looking for earlier. You can digest it enough, but you don't have to be a climatologist
Right.
or astrophysicist or whatever, right? Because we've been watching Cosmos.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
But them explaining like the upper atmosphere is getting sucked down, and that's
Right.
what's flash freezing everything, and that concept is really hard to explain, but they do a really good job of laying out at least the knowledge and then showing it, and then they come back and say, okay, this is really what's going on, and
Right.
that's kind of an interesting take of doing proper science stuff, and that's one of the things that like Ridley Scott did really good with Martian,
Right.
was talking about the real science of it and stuff like that, and
Right.
that was cool in this
Yeah.
one.
I think The Martian probably is more science-y, but
Absolutely,
this,
absolutely.
It takes the disaster genre, which usually are pretty fantastical,
Right.
so it goes over the top in that respect because it's following that genre,
Right.
but it's stuff that does make sense in a science way.
Right.
Like the one with The Rock, San Andreas.
San Andreas, yeah.
So, I mean,
That's fun in a different reason.
It is,
Yeah.
but it doesn't. I'm just thinking of like modern disaster movies. They a lot of times don't. The science just doesn't work.
Right,
They're so out there that you're like, this could never happen. But this one, even though it's over the top, a version of it could actually happen.
Could happen, and they're taking what is happening, could happen over a several 100-year period,
Right.
and putting it in within a 2 or 3 week period,
Right.
And some people complained with this movie that the timetable doesn't work and whatever, and I was very conscious of watching certain things this time, because normally we turn it on, it's brain off and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
but I was actually like paying attention to it a little bit because I knew we were going to do this review, and they make references to a couple of days ago, or last night, like kind of giving at least a timetable, especially with the kids in the library or the group in the library, showing that it's been at least giving a reference point to how long it took everybody to do everything and
Right.
how everything
Yeah.
happened, because they talk about 10 days early on, and then later on, everybody's like, "Oh, this all happened overnight." And it's like, no, he did not walk from Washington D.C. to New York
Right.
overnight,
Right.
in the snow. But
Right. And there's multiple times when they sleep on their journey to
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
I mean, they do show that, it's been several days at least that they've been walking, and they're walking on, feet, many feet of snow. So
snow
it's not
and
like,
frozen ocean, and
it's not like they're
yeah.
having to walk around stuff.
Yeah,
They're just walking on top of it.
as the crow would fly, is what
Yeah,
they say.
pretty much.
But I just actually sitting down this time and actually paying attention to a lot more stuff than just big Chinese. There's a lot of depth to this, and explain the science, explain the timetables, and the relationship between Jack and Sam, and how Sam's Jake Gyllenhaal's character, and him, hit one of his favorite vacations, because that's kind of a funny little line, is, "What's your favorite vacation?" He's like, "Other than this one," when they're stuck in the library, and him saying it was the one where they went on he went out with his dad on an expedition, and it rained the whole time, so they were stuck on the hotel for 10 days together, and so they get to spend time. So it was like it was big, shiny disaster movie, storms killing everybody, satellite views from the ISS, like all this stuff, whatever. But there's also this layer there that I think a lot of people maybe missed when they watched it the first time, because it was a disaster movie,
right?
And this also gives like the that little bit of extra care to the characters, so you actually fear for them when they're in their situation.
Yeah, I was just thinking that same thing. Like, even the guy who plays Bilbo.
Yeah.
Can't think of his name. I know, we're horrible.
Ian Holm.
Huh?
Ian Holm.
Ian Holm. Oh, I would never have gotten there.
Yeah.
Him and two other guys are like scientists, climatologists, whatever, and they're in a kind of northern Europe, UK weather station.
Weather station facility.
Yeah. And you see the one guy's wife and kid, they drop him off and then take off, and so you kind of it's that disaster movie trope. You're like, oh, something's obviously going to happen to him,
right,
but you really, I remember, and I still kind of felt this way, and we've seen it a lot. I remember in the movie theater that I really felt bad for them. And
the line it's time for you to leave, and that time's long past. That, like, just like, it's really subtly heartbreaking.
And you don't end up seeing them die, thankfully, because that would be, I don't know.
No, they killed everybody off in Los Angeles with those giant tornadoes.
Right. The reporter getting taken out by a billboard
and stuff.
He's just standing on the street.
Let's be honest. Every major city gets destroyed at some point in time in some movie, but very rarely is it L.A.
Independence Day.
Yeah.
Because the girl's standing
on
the
that's
top
right.
of
Because I always think of the shot from the White House explosion. And stuff like that.
No, she's standing on the top of the
Capitol
Records building,
like
and the
Wells Fargo building or something like that. And Boston getting destroyed, and Godzilla King of Monsters. That was another one. Where it was like, oh, they did Boston. They never destroyed Boston.
It's never Phoenix.
It's never Phoenix.
We're safe,
which is good. We just have giant sandstorms here, and that's
Haboobies.
it. And haboobies, which nobody here
calls them that.
No, they're not called that. But with this movie, it's going to be one of those ones that we're going to watch a bazillion and a half times again. Like I said, the CGI, the storm CGI holds up pretty good for being 15 years old.
Right.
Even when it came out, my one complaint of the entire movie was the wolves.
Yeah.
They hadn't figured out what to do there.
Yeah.
Can we like CGI the dire wolves from Game of Thrones in, because those look amazing. Maybe there's a cut of that with the dire wolves running around. But because there's fan stuff of all kinds over the place. But that little putting that danger out there when they're going out to the boat and stuff like that, I understand it, because it gives it, purpose for them to hurry, and then the eye of the storm comes through and stuff like that, puts them in proper danger and stuff like that. But I just the CGI of the wolves is so bad that it's just it
definitely pulls you out.
Pulls me out of the movie every time. We just skip that. I look away when the wolves come on. I love that scene, but I look away and stuff. But overall, this is one of those movies that, like we said, that we really like. Holds up for us for the most part.
Yeah, the story and everything.
Story and
like you said, the
everything.
CGI, but the story. There's proper loss and cool effects, and you understand the science of everything, and
a really heartfelt father-son hug at the end.
Yeah.
It makes you.
Yeah. And then the poignant Americans having to beg to get it across the border to
Across
Mexico.
the border into Mexico. Huh. It's a very timely movie.
It is. It is. We may be moving to Mexico when this whole thing is over because, yeah.
This is not a political show, but just saying. So that is our thoughts on The Day After Tomorrow, one of our movies that we're going back to watch. Proper disaster, end of the world stuff. We've also done. This is the World's End.
The World's End.
And we did Armageddon. So
Yep.
we've done aliens, we've done giant storms, and we've done asteroids. So we'll have to figure out what we're going to do next.
Right. Well, I know which one we're going to do next. You'll have to stay tuned to find out.
Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications because.
Yep. But the next one will be funny.
Funny. Okay. I think I know which one you're talking about. So what did you guys think of The Day After Tomorrow? Our review of the movie, that's what I want to say. Let us know in the comments. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, like I said, and hit the bell for notifications. If you're on the podcast feed, please follow us there. We're trying to upload as many of the reviews as we can as we go along. And you can follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I still don't understand Twitter, but whatever. And until next time, cult members, if we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.